Mahmoud's opinion, but I am a bit not disrespectful. So, I'm disagreeing with you a bit, because actually the thing is that during the revolution, when I was in Tahrir Square and we had a strike, okay, and the military were at the end of the 18 days, the military was a bit threatening us that if anyone would go into a protest rather than the strike, they will shoot them. So you know what we did as women, because the revolution changed this. We gathered in front of the university, all women from all ages you would imagine, and we went into a protest. And this is the power of women in Egypt now, okay? No one came beside us. No single soldier came beside us. They were scared from women. Believe it or not, they were scared by us. This is number one. Number two, if you would see the initiative of, for example, cleaning the square, that we would start cleaning the square. Women started cleaning the square, and then men would see like this, and they come rushing to us that, would you like me to help? No, 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 thank you. No, 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 I'm going to help. So we inspired people within the square to do things. Until now, for example, before I would come, I'm a representative for the National Council, I'm a girl, and we discussed this inside the council itself lately, that as she mentioned, for example, there are political representatives from women, but they choose sometimes not to go into interviews or whatever. So in the national, we said it's like now a must for us to start showing ourselves, not only to work on the infrastructure or from underground, as they say. This is number one. Number two, I will tell you something. When I saw afterwards in the Syrian revolution that the women there gathered too, because one of the martyrs, their sons and daughters died, and they gathered in order to claim their rights, they reminded me of us in Egypt. So you would see that women in Egypt inspired women in Syria. They did the same thing. And even, I will tell you something, this revolution before even the 25th, when I was discussing on the Facebook, on the internet, with Romy, my friend from Germany, Maria, my friend from Italy, Kaatka, my friend from Tunisia, all of them girls, and all of them, go for it, girl, fight for your freedom, just don't be scared, and just show them how strong the Egyptian girls are. All of this was just girls and women. And as we see, and as we say always, that the woman is the half of the society because she raises the other half of the society. So you would imagine women, such mothers with such strong personalities. Could you imagine their children, their strength? When a mother would raise her son, like me for example, or any young girl in the future, that you must have some sort of sense of belonging to your country, you must claim for your rights, you must be strong, you must have dignity, you must have some sort of optimism. Don't ever surrender for anyone to steal your dignity or your freedom. So could you imagine the effect of us in the future?
Do you feel that this empowerment of women goes through all classes of society?
Well, I will tell you something. Of course, as a natural result for 30 years of not engaging, I would say I wouldn't say poor as much as certain social standards. It's not always related to poverty. You could find people rich, but they have certain background, culture background. Okay. The thing is, even in this, believe it or not, very traditional families in Egypt, like they prevent their girls from participating into the civil work or into political life. Nowadays, it's a bit changing, but actually it's in the capital and in the capital as Cairo or Alexandria, but in the rural areas it's a bit behind. And it's natural because actually, it's a bit, the development process is not very high there. So the thing is that we're working now, it's our role actually, as it's our role in the beginning when we initiated the revolution, it's part of our role, that we would go to that areas, take by the women's hand there to have some sort, as we're doing now, workshops, to have civil work, community centers, to develop children, to develop women, to empower them in their societies, to tell them that it's your right that to be part of the decision-making system. So it's our role too. I know it's a bit difficult, but it's going to happen sooner or later.
Thank you. You have an optimistic view of the role of women. Yeah, that's great. How can the international community best support democratic development in the Arab world? What would you say, Michael, regarding that? How can we best support?
Democratic development. I mean, to me, when I hear the word democracy, it's the one value, the most important value to me that comes to mind is that in the democracy you protect the rights of the minority. That minority be a woman, be a veiled woman, be a Christian, be in Egypt a Nubi, or anybody. But to do that, if I divided the international community, I think what happens in the Middle East as a whole, what's happening now is probably the most significant event since the fall of the Berlin Wall and the integration of Eastern Europe into democracies. If you look at the level of confidence on the Arab street with respect to the international community represented in the EU and the US and the powers, in the beginning of this revolution, nobody supported what was going on. And even until today, you see what's happening in Syria, and because of Russia and China, we cannot get the resolution from the UN. So youth as a whole are not very optimistic because the world treated this event as it was a non-event. The world treated this event in the beginning as politics as usual. We're going to pander a little bit to the dictatorship, and we're going to say a couple of words and stay in the middle, and we're not going to take sides, and we'll see who wins, and then we jump on that side. And even after we have a revolution, and we have the will of the people clearly expressed in Tahrir Square that we wanted a civil country, we find Hillary Clinton making an outrageous statement that the US will support any government the Egyptian people choose, even if it was an Islamic government. And on that front, I think the youth, the ones that really did not make the revolution but started the revolution, and everybody that followed them on the streets, wanted a better life for Egypt and wanted that one particular value, democracy, which is the respect of everybody else's right. So if you want to be an Islamist in Egypt, you can be an Islamist. If you want to be a normal Muslim, you can be a normal Muslim. If you want to be a Christian, you can be a Christian. If you want to be an atheist, you should be able to be an atheist. But if we start an international community playing the same old politics as we played before and pander to whatever regime, be it in Egypt or in the Arab world, then we run into the risk of just reversing all these gains that we've made. So if we look at government, I think governments, Swedish government, EU members, have the responsibility to help us protect this revolution, and in the Arab world, through first and foremost, I think, economic aid. Everybody, whether it be the governments, NGO world, or individuals such as yourself, you have a responsibility in helping in economic aid. Without money, Egypt can disintegrate. The rest of the Arab world that's seeing democracy can disintegrate into fights for bread or for food, because we have these economic tough times now. So the number one help I think we need right now is economic aid. We need tourists to come back. Believe me, it's very safe. You can come to Egypt anytime and bring your friends, and if you're afraid, we'll meet you and show you around. And the second part, which NGO community plays a bigger role, and I have to thank the Swedish Institute, because in April, I think, and the Swedish youth, we have people coming over to share their experiences with us. We're in the middle of a revolution. Most mothers are still afraid for their kids to go on the street, and then here the Swedish kids coming to Alexandria to show us how the youth play a role in the political development. And it's very helpful for us, because in Egypt, our parties are all integrated as one part. There isn't a unique space for the youth to play a role. And the one experience we'll gain from here is that we have to go back and we have to tell everybody who's working in Egypt now that this has to change, because you have a member of parliament at the age of 19, and you have ministers at the age of 20 and 25, and you have people who are 13 years old getting elected to office. This is amazing for us, and one of the problems this revolution happened is because people ignored the youth for so long in Egypt, and you had to have gray hair for somebody to respect you and hear your views. So we need help in the political development. We need help with the political party developments. We need help in the women education area and specifically the political message to women, to empower women, especially in the rural areas and the farmer land, because mothers, as my colleagues here said, are very influential in Egypt. Even farmers, you find that the female tells the male what to do and where to go, and I guess it happens everywhere, not just in the farmers' land. But so they're very, very influential, and we need political engagement from countries that can have political engagement with the political establishment in Egypt. Now, if we call it the political part of the military council, because we like to separate between the military and the military council, or the political military council. So we can criticize the political military, but we don't criticize the military. So, so we need you engaged in the political process with the military, the political wing of the military, so we can do what the revolution actually wanted to do, and we don't start deviating.
Thank you. Björn, I mean, you were one of the youth coming down to Egypt only 1.5 months after Mubarak stepped down. After, I mean, that workshop and after this now, how do you think that we best can help and support each other in both countries?
Yeah, after the workshop there, me and Rebecca, my colleague, we were inspired, so we went to Cairo and we were standing on the Tahrir Square the night after and taking part with a very small step in the revolution. And I think that Mike said very many wise things about how like we in Europe and other Western countries can support the democratic development. And so I agree with everything. So the only thing I want to add on that point is that we should stop supporting the dictators that we are doing right now. If you look at Libya, for example, all the Western leaders say, oh, it's so horrible, he's shooting, he's bombing his own people with the guns that we have sold to them. For example, we should stop exporting weapons to dictators. That's one important step to support democracy and to stop supporting dictatorship. And that comes, yeah, you can take that to loans. That maybe it's not that wise always to give big loans to dictators, depending on what they're doing with the money. If they are using the money to build up the secret police and the army, no, then you probably shouldn't do that. So besides everything we can do to support democracy and support new built democracies, we should stop supporting dictators.
Karim, I know you are a social media expert, and that's the way you work as an activist and so on. And maybe you'd like to tell us a little bit more about that, but also how can we reach down to the grassroots then when we have, how many % of Egypt is actually using internet? How do we reach down to the poor levels in society with our messages?